this a while. Here we go. All right, so I'll give you guys a few more minutes and we'll get to it. Does that work? Okay. Bless you. Yeah, no problem. All right, let's get to it. So, six principles of the Constitution. What do we have? What's one of them? What's one of them? So, video lesson on Friday. This is what we discussed. You can use your presentation to help you too. What was one of them here, Zara? Go ahead. All right, good. Judicial review. What does that mean? Yeah, good job. So they deem really anything constitutional or not. So usually laws, okay, and they see if it goes against the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. All right, we'll talk about the supremacy clause here shortly, and that's just more or less a check, right? Whenever there is a law created, whenever there's policies created, the judicial branch, Supreme Court will look at it and say, does this go against the supreme law of the land? We'll see. So typically, whenever a state makes a law, right? We kind of compare it here to our Constitution. If it goes against it, chances are it's not going to fly. Okay, good. What's another one? So there's one, judicial review. Good. What's another one that we have? Olivia, what's another one? Yeah, popular sovereignty. What does that mean? Yeah, people have the power. That plain and simple. Yeah, good job. So people have the power. So leaders are chosen through voting, right? When you think about a direct democracy, okay, obviously, we don't really have that. We have a republic, right? We have a representative democracy, okay, but through time, obviously, that kind of altered changed through population and bigger areas. And again, we mentioned about the influences of that dating back to ancient Greece. Okay, obviously, the Roman law was huge when it came to creating our constitution, our government. But yeah, popular sovereignty means people rule. All right, good. What else we got? All right, Zara, what's another one? Yeah, good job. So government is limited in its power. Okay. And that's a great way, a great principle to have so that government doesn't act out, even oversteps the law itself. Okay. When you think about certain events that happen in history, which I described, maybe government has to maybe be picked up or elevated a bit, right? Maybe it needs to grow depending on the times. So when you think about the Great Depression, anytime we're at war, when you think about COVID-19, the government policies got a little bit bigger, right? Again, typically after those events, you see a downsize in it, and people have a little bit of a problem with government and maybe overstepping its boundaries. So just wanted to give you a heads up. There are sometimes events where government does increase its role in society. And it's usually after an event like a depression, a war, or like I just said, a pandemic, right? But in any case, all right, this limits government's power so that it doesn't abuse it, right? So that it doesn't become this tyrannical rule within society or authoritarian rule. All right, good. What's another one? What is another one? Katia, what do you got? All right, good. Federalism. What does that mean? Yeah, good job. Good. So when it comes to national government, obviously that entity is controlled by, let's say, a political party. Right now, it's the Republican Party. So when you think about the House of Representatives and the Senate, right now the majority leans to the Republican Party. The executive branch, the president, right now, Republican Party. Okay, but with federalism, this allows states to determine their leaders based off of their opinions, their political interests. So, yeah, you have states that are Republican based. So it seems like across the board, then it's all red, right? But there are some states that are typically always blue, like California, New York. Those are good examples where the state leans in a different direction. Anyway, federalism gives an opportunity for more people to have a say in government, pursue a position in government to benefit their people, their community. So it's not just really focused with one level, right? There's multiple levels here of government that are working in the interests of the people. So, good way to look at it. You got a local government, state government, right? And then you got your national government. That makes sense? All right. What else you got? Caden, what's another one? Yeah, separation of powers. Good. And we talked about this already quite a bit, right? With separation of powers, we got our legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, and they all have powers. They all have their own set of powers here that are different from one another, right? Another principle is what? To make sure that they can keep each other in check. Kind of gave it away a little bit. Charlotte, how do these branches keep each other balanced? Yeah, checks and balances. Good. So it says it in the name, right? These branches of government, depending on certain policies that are made, certain directions, right? The other branches of government can make sure that one branch is becoming too powerful. Right? Example, which I'm going to give you an assignment here today. You guys can go through it yourself. Examples when it comes to creating a law, right? That's the easiest one to really talk about, right? The legislative branch creates a law, right? So it goes through the chambers, the legislative branch, the two houses, and then after that, the president decides if he's going to sign off on it or veto it. Okay, the legislative branch can override that veto, which sometimes could maybe happen, and then judicial branch deems it constitutional or not. So that's a way for the branches to keep one another in check. All right, is there any questions? We good? All right. Let me check to see if you have any terms. I don't think you do. Um, I must have got rid of it. Anyway, your term today would be the preamble. So if you want to write that down in your vocab terms, the preamble, that'd be good. In other words, it's the introduction, right? So this is the introduction to the Constitution. And we're going to talk about this introduction here today. And then towards the end, I'm going to give you that assignment, checks and balances. I think it's good to go over it to see what kind of powers and checks and balances we have in our branches, so that one doesn't become too powerful. And you see it in action pretty much almost every day. All right, so here we go, the preamble. Let's read this thing. Well, let's read it. Caden, you want to read this for us? Thanks, buddy.
People in the United States in order to fund public banking, establish justice, ensure domestic authority, provide for the public defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the to ourselves and our possibility to ordain and establish the country constitution for the United States of America.
All right, good, good. So when you think about the preamble, what really sticks out is we the people, right? And I think that was one of the questions on a citizenship test. Remember that? Yeah, we the people. So again, the Constitution, when you think about for government, right, one of the most important, probably the most important written documents of all time, right? When it comes to government, right? The founding fathers really laid this out perfectly. And still to this day, it it's relevant and it's proven over time to make sure that one party, one person doesn't become all powerful, right? That we can avoid this authoritarian control, this authoritarian move back, let's say to a autocracy. So, in other words, the Constitution is a working document that has shown its success really time and time again, right, with the structure of it and the foundation of this Constitution. So, in other words, it's really, really important. And I would say one of the greatest creations politically ever, right? Okay. Obviously, the Bible stands up there with a written document, but man, this is there when it comes to probably number two. All right, so let's break it down a little bit more. So we the people. So this is a good example here, just breaking it down for you guys. I'd write it down, just understanding some of the goals of the Constitution. So in your book, it talks about the goals of the preamble, right? More or less the introductions, laying out what this document's supposed to do. Okay. So just make sure you know whenever you hear the preamble, just know it's the introduction. And in that introduction, it's laying out what the Constitution's objectives are, what its goals are. So here are the goals. We the people, government gets its power from the people, not a king or ruler. So remember, we mentioned this quite a bit, right? When you think about popular sovereignty. Oh, was that one of the principles of the Constitution? Yeah, it was, right? So popular sovereignty, rule by the people. The people rule, okay, not the king or a ruler, okay? So again, you can think back to influences too, right? The Magna Carta, right? You can think back to many of the influences to the Constitution, which prevents one person from holding full power. All right, form a more perfect union. So create a stronger, united country. Okay. And we talked about some of the compromises, didn't we? That established this Constitution, this new form of government, right? You guys remember the Virginia plan, New Jersey plan? Yeah. How did they make that compromise? What one was that called? The what compromise? Caden? What's that? Oh, no, you're talking about the three fifths, but we're going to mention that here soon. The Great Compromise, right? Or known as the Connecticut Plan, right? This was a way to try to lay out our government structure and utilizing the ideas from the Virginia and New Jersey plan together. And then, yes, the Three Fifths Compromise, right? So with that, we probably would have had a separate, well, two countries here in what we know of the United States from the very beginning, right? So obviously, when it comes to slavery, it's really sad, it's awful, right? But when it came to the decisions of the founding fathers to create this three-fifths compromise, it was important to make sure a country didn't just fall apart from the very beginning. So, yeah, right. It was a compromise that kind of glued us together, right? Obviously, we'd have a civil war down the line, but right, this compromise from the beginning established that for representation purposes and taxation purposes, right? It was needed. All right, establish justice. So make sure laws are fair and applied equally. So when you think about the amendments we have, even in our Bill of Rights, right? This is important to have so that the accused, right, even though they're accused of a crime, it's not like they just lose their rights, right? There's a way to protect people, right, from let's say government or let's say leaders or politicians going after certain people for whatever reason there might be. So, yeah, right. So protect the people when it comes to their rights, right? That they don't get accused of crimes and that they do have protections, even if they are accused of crimes. All right, so ensure domestic tranquility, keep peace within the country, no chaos or rebellions. So yeah, it is important to have a police force. It is important to have a court system, right, where we can solve the disputes amongst people, right? And at the same time, that we do have an authority here to make sure that there isn't anarchy, that there isn't chaos, that we can walk the streets and not worry about any dangers. Are there still dangers out there? Of course. But when you think about the United States compared to many other countries around the world, we do a pretty darn good job. All right. I'm not going to say it on YouTube, but there's times I don't even lock my door because I feel safe, right? Places around the world, whew, maybe not so much. And again, I'm not saying everywhere in the country either. There are some dangerous parts in the country, but um, with the U.S., we do a pretty good job, right? Our police force, police authority, they deserve a lot of respect for what they do. All right, provide for the common defense, protect the country from enemies. So when you think about our national defense or military, right? I know we spend a lot of money on it year in and year out, right? But there is a reason for it. You can count on one hand, really, the amount of attacks that we had from an adversary, from an enemy. And again, there's a reason because we do have a strong military, right? Our presence around the world, peace through strength. It's not like we're going out and starting wars with people. But at the same time, through our strength, we can avoid conflicts with certain countries, right? Through the strength of our military, we can get what we want without actually throwing the punch. Does that make sense? It's like why you lift weights, huh? It's why you lift weights. It's a way to make sure that no one wants to mess with old Caden over there, right? Or Yari, yeah? That's why you lift some weights, huh? All right. Promote the general welfare. So supports people's well-being, health, economy, education. So again, when we talk about public institutions, when we talk about public services, right, the government provides this to the people through, obviously social programs. So education is a big part of our society to make sure that our youth is ready to go in a career path, right, that they of their choosing after they're done with schooling. When it comes to healthcare, obviously that's important, right? The economy, again, very important when it comes to sending our interests around the world, right? Promoting new innovations, new products, new goods, so people can enjoy life and have a better standard of living. Is it perfect? No, right? Obviously. But in any case, we do a pretty darn good job when it comes to certain services. All right, secure the blessings of liberty, protect freedom for current and future generations, so that we don't fall down this path of authoritarianism, that we do have these principles, this structure, the Constitution, to provide these freedoms that really many people, many died over time through Western civilization, right? The fight against authoritarian rule and unjust rule, right? That people have a say in government. People choose what government they would like to have, right? And overall, yeah, they're the deciding factors of like life. So when it comes to the Bill of Rights, good example too of your freedoms, right? That's set in stone. These the 10 amendments, right? Obviously, amendments passed that are very important too, right? But when it comes to freedom of speech, when it comes to freedom of assembly, you have the ability to say what you want. Can you find that really anywhere else in the world? Some places, but not all, right? There is even some European countries that don't have freedom of speech. So it's one of those things where we kind of take it for granted, but some places around the world, you won't find it. All right, so there's the preamble. Is there any questions? Just know the preamble is the introduction, right? And these are the goals here that are laid out. So whenever you're writing any document, whenever you're writing a paper, you should always kind of state in the introduction what this paper is intended to do, right? What's the goals? What's the objectives? And then you go from there. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, we'll talk about the structure of the Constitution more. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. All right, tomorrow. And then Thursday, Friday, I'm going to give you an assignment that lays out the structure of the Constitution. And then I'll even have one that promotes an amendment. So proposes an amendment. So you guys have to decide what amendment that we don't have that you'd like to see. Okay. So I'll go through a few of them with you um, that were proposed. Some were just god awful, and some were like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where they'd maybe want to have an amendment in the United States for this. Right? A lot of times people try to, people pick, a lot of times people try to pick how we need term limits for Congress, right? For politicians, right? That's important, right? That's important. So when it comes to representatives in the House and the Senate, it's like we can't have this a career-long thing, which I think we all can agree, right? So that's an amendment a lot of people tend to propose, but I'll mention a few of them. I think you'll find some of them interesting. All right, real quick, here's your assignment. It's really simple. It's really easy. It's almost elementary-like in a way, but I think it'll open up your eyes to a few of the checks and balances that maybe you didn't really think of. All right, so this is what it looks like. I don't know why it got on a second page, but it does. But I like you just to fill out this chart. So when it comes to the executive branch, what checks it has on the legislative and judicial. When it comes to legislative branch, what checks it has on the executive and judicial. When it comes to judicial branch, what it has on checks and balances over the executive and legislative. So I just like you to fill out a few of these, right? Try if you can find something interesting that I maybe didn't state already. I know when it comes to creating a law, that's an easy one, right? How a bill becomes a law. So anyway, you guys got it? Good. You guys need to watch the video of how a bill becomes a law. You guys remember watching that back in the day, Schoolhouse Rock? No? Really? Okay, I'll play it for you guys. Wait, Katie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just a bill. Yeah. No, still no ringing any bells? No. Oh my gosh. I'll play it for you. True. In all reality, is that how it goes? It's designed to do that, but yeah, if you have some money, you're pushing it down on these politicians, you sponsor them. That's how you get it through, right, Zara? Okay, I'm not going to get into the ugly side of things, but might get taken down on YouTube here. All right.